I'm going to show you how to make some in the hoop bunting from Kreative Kiwi, and for that I'm going to be using my 5x7 hoop, 2 sheets of wash away stabiliser. I've got my tape, a stitch unpicker, threads with a matching bobbin, my fabrics cut to size and my scissors. I've hooped my 2 layers of wash away stabiliser and I'm just going to put some pins in around the edge just to keep my stabiliser nice and taut in the hoop. I'm now going to pop that into my machine and stitch round number 1, and that's going to give me my placement outline. Next we're going to place our batting and front fabric down, and we're going to cover the whole of the outline. I'm just going to use a little bit of tape to hold it in place during stitching. We're now going to pop that in our machine and stitch round number 2 to secure it. I've changed my thread to white and I'm now going to stitch round number 3, and that's going to do all the stipple quilting in this area here. We're now going to lay down our contrasting fabric in this area here. And I'm just going to use a little bit of tape. We'll now pop that back in our machine and stitch round number 4 to secure it. Next is round number 5, and that's going to do the quilting in this area here. Next we're going to trim off the excess underneath the scalloped edge here. I've changed my thread to pink and I'm now going to stitch round number 6, and that's going to do the zigzagging along the scalloped edge. We're now going to stitch round number 7, and that's going to be the satin stitch along the scalloped edge. Next is round number 8, and that's going to do our placement for our letter. We're going to place our letter fabric over the outline, and I'm going to secure it with a little bit of tape. I'll now pop that into my machine and stitch round number 9, and that's going to secure my fabric. So next we're going to trim up all the excess from around our letter and from the centre here. I'm just going to use my stitch unpicker just to lift the fabric and make a little slit. I don't want to cut the fabric below, just the yellow. I'm going to pop that into my machine and stitch round number 10, and that's going to do the zigzagging over all the raw edges. Next we're going to stitch round number 11, and that's going to do the satin stitch around the edges of the letter. I've changed my thread to yellow, and we're now going to stitch round number 12, and that's going to do the decorative top stitching over the satin stitch on the letter and also the scalloped edge. We're now going to add our backing fabric, so I'm going to turn my hoop over, and these little threads here that are poking out, I'm just going to chop them off. I'm going to place my fabric over the outline and I'm going to tape it in place. I've changed my thread back to pink, and I'm now going to pop my hoop back into my machine and stitch round number 13 to secure the backing fabric. We're now going to trim up all the excess fabric from both the back and front, and I'm going to start with the back. Put that back into my machine and stitch round number 14, and that's going to zigzag the raw edge. Make sure you've got your matching bobbin and thread in your machine now, because we're going to stitch round number 15, and that's going to do the satin stitching all around the edge of the bunting. Next is round number 16, and that's going to give us our placement for our ribbon eyelets. We've now got to cut the fabric from the centre of the placement lines, both back and front. So I'm going to start off with the back. I'm going to take my unpicker once again, and I want to slice the fabric, not the actual stabiliser. So I'm just going to poke that in and lift it. When I'm sure that I've just got the fabric, I'm going to make a little slit. I can now cut away this fabric from the centre. Now I'm going to do the same on the front, and I need to cut through all the fabric and batting, but not the stabiliser. I'm going to pop that back in my machine and stitch round number 17, and that's going to do the satin stitching around the edges. I've changed my thread to yellow, and we're now going to stitch the final round number 18, and that's the decorative top stitching over the satin stitch as before. And we're now going to free it from the hoop. And now all that remains is to dissolve the remaining wash away stabiliser from the edges. So I'm just going to use a cotton bud dipped in warm water. So I'm just going to add a little piece of ribbon here. And there's our bunting finished. I hope you enjoyed this stitch along. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to be notified of new videos as they're published. Do pop along to Kreative Kiwi's Facebook group. There's lots of ideas and inspiration there for you, and we'd love to see your makes. Thank you very much for joining me.